So please let's continue. And please welcome.
People and belonging. Let's have a round of applause. And next on the panel, we have Ms. Molara Wood. Ms. Molara Wood is a Nigerian creative writer, journalist, and critic. She has been described as one of the renowned voices in the arts of Nigeria. Her short stories, flash fiction, poetry, and essays have appeared in numerous publications. Some of these publications include African Literature Today, Chimurenga, Farafina Magazine, Sentinel Poetry, and several others. This is a round of applause. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much. And before I ask, I would love to make a comment. And what the movie, The Poets, reminds me, or the reference I want to make, is the biblical creation story. When the creation got to possibly the most problematic and possible the most beautiful part of creation, the statement was, let us. And that is what the conversation between Chili Coca and Professor Niyi Osundare reminds me. It is what happens when creatives and artists come together. The coming together is usually like, let us create. And they've given us the poets. Please, can we give a round of applause again? So I would start with questions to Ms. Molara Wood and Ms. Adeola N. And I would, a particular reference to what Professor Niyi said when he was attending to the students in the lecture room, when he was speaking about poetry as protest, particularly protest against silence. And I want to ask you, at what point did you, as an artist, a writer, a scholar, become very critical about environmental degradation? And at what
in other places who give attention to nature. And I was thinking, well, how many other people do we have who have that particular focus? And I asked myself, was he or has he been treading on new ground, as it were? But then, this takes me to Fagunwa, and when you think of Fagunwa's, and I think that in reading that when I was young, I was definitely conscious of it, of the power, the imaginative power of the natural environment. And I'll tell you why. When you read Igoyo Mole, for instance, there's always a narrator that goes to a leafy environment. It's not just the adventure that you read about later, when they're in the jungle and all that, or they're in the wilderness, they're in the forest. They see all these amazing creatures and have all these fantastic adventures. It's not just that. The narrator who tells the story also goes to a place that is not that different from the botanical gardens of the University of Ibadan. Goes there and appreciates the need to be in a contemplative space that is beautiful and nurtures the mind, and where you can think, you can hear yourself think. And it's when that person is there that Akara, the hero of the story, materializes, appears, and starts to tell his story. So that for me has always been the story of the power of nature and the connection to creativity. You can even go further and say that even the fantastical story that is then told in the course of the novel is the imaginative flight of that narrator, that character who goes to nature. So I think that kind of thing has always been, we have always had that, and I've just built on that over time. Wherever I've been, whether I've lived elsewhere or I've lived in Nigeria, I'm always conscious of these, and I develop I continue to develop those ideas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for being here. It's an honor to be here and to actually be in the presence of people I consider my elders and people I consider I'm learning from, and my ontology of who I am as a person is being formed by their presence and their work. I think for me, it started way earlier, even before I'm aware of it. So it started when I was way younger, and every time we would travel. So I was really born into a family where we moved a lot, and I would always look at the moon, and I would always observe myself telling stories with the moon, and then observe how as you cross across the West African coast, the phases of the moon affect the phases of the body of water around us. And I did not think about it further than that, but I was just like very aware of it, very conscious of the creativity that I got inspired from nature and from the things around me. And I think that got me started in thinking, we can't create anything if we're not in a relationship with nature to begin with. So I would say that would be the beginning, but the beginning of focusing explicitly on the degradation and impact of everything we're doing and hypercapitalism in our planet started when I took a break from living in Brussels, working in policy, focusing on doing better policy, cultural policy, especially relationship between Africa and the EU. And I realized that the things we quote unquote are recycling are ending up at the shores of Accra, at the shores in Lome, at the shores in Cotonou, and even on the coast of Lagos. And of course, we feel very great for being activists and we're recycling, but then they're sending it back home to us. And what does that look like back home? What impact is that having in our day-to-day life? So I think I kind of switched from being a public health scientist that technically spoke only about health to actually say, well, we can't talk about health without the impact of the planet. So I become what we will call in Brussels very radical, because when you talk about the impact of the planet and the impact of imperialism and ongoing neocolonialism, then you're too radical. But I love being radical, so it's fine. As Professor Niyi said to me earlier, having been mentored by people who are troublemakers across different coasts of the continent, I am born to be a troublemaker, so I have no choice.
So thank you very much. I will not direct the question at Prof. And I'm going to ask you a question from your own words. And it's also from the question of protest. You said there is nothing wrong with protest literature. Basically, all literature, one way or another, the most sublime form of art is a protest against silence. The real issue, and this is where I want to ask the question, the real issue is what and whose politics. So I want to ask you, with your experience as a writer and an advocate of against environmental degradation, what will you say the politics of environmental degradation is, and in whose politics it is?
I hope you won't mind if I stand up. I'm a teacher. It's difficult for me to sit down and talk. Is this? You can. Hello? Yes. Difficult for me to sit down and talk. First of all, I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank people that have made it possible for us to be here. The Ibadan Film Club, Institute of African Studies. This is a very familiar terrain to me. I have been here many times. I have made trouble on this ground many times too. The Biabon period, Abacha period, and so on. Any presentation I wanted to make in the university, I said, take me to African Studies. This is where all the faculties meet. This is just to let us know, again, something to reinforce it, how important places like this are. I want to thank the director, my brother and Aburo, Shola. My friend Suchimikoka sends his greetings. We talked last night. And he said, I'll be there in spirit. I will be, tell my brothers and sisters in Nigeria that I'm with them. He's very, very much with us. And I have given him your message. I may not be as eloquent as I would have, as he would have put it. I'm coming to your question, but I'm going to be very brief about this. The question of agency. especially as this relates to the predicament, the unrelenting predicament of Africa. Thank you, Emily Dita, if I pronounce your name well, and Barbara, the director of IFRA. I used to hunt that place too a lot. The Poets, that is the documentary we've just seen, was filmed in 2016. 10 days in Sierra Leone, 11 days here in Nigeria. And of course, you have seen it, how much the University of Ibadan has featured that. Why did it take us 8 years to bring that kind of film there? Forget the fact that small me is there. It appears to me, and this has always been, we don't act until somebody takes the initiative. The initiative for this came from Europe as usual. Suppose there had been no Emily, no Ifra. That documentary is not about me, it's about us, about this university. No other university in any developed part of the world behaves this way. We sit down too much, waiting for other people to do our work, are never separated. It is in modern Western art, manichaeism. You say, yeah, shape and forms, that's what you are looking for. This is a beautiful bottle. It is standing there on the desk. And you are looking at the beauty of the shape and the form and so on. But what is the beauty of that bottle to somebody? And the bottle is empty. How will a thirsty person react to that? African epistemology usually sees the beautiful in the useful and the useful in the beautiful. Talking about protest, this is really the way I see it. Then how do we protest? I have not read any work of that doesn't protest one way or another. In fact, the more you try to avoid protesting, the more Protestant you become. No, art is such a thing that you cannot just put it up. People often say, yeah, we take the example of Shakespeare. Shakespeare is not, no writer can be more political than Shakespeare. There is no human type in this world that is not represented in Shakespeare. Whether it's an Othello or an Arago or a Cassius and a Caesar. So then it all depends upon where you are. Art protest. I think it was Mugubi who said every work is a work in politics. The question is what and whose politics. This is important. And it was more or less signifying on what Jean-Paul Sartre said earlier on in the 1940s, the great French existential philosopher, when he said, the function of the artist is to make sure that, of the writer, is to make sure that after reading his or her work, nobody can say again that I'm innocent, or I do not know where the word is. It doesn't mean you are going to preach. No, there must be something there that lifts the veil. Lifting the veil. This is important. Again, thank you very much, African Studies. Thank you very much, Ifra, and all my friends here. We have a lot of work to do, ladies and gentlemen. I've been shouting this for over 35 years here. The world has not healed. We have a lot of work to do. Our universities are not what they should be. The standard has come down drastically. I'm in a position to know. I have been to universities on all the continents, and I knew when Ibadan was on top. Yeah, when you didn't have to fill an application, I didn't fill an application form before the University of Leeds gave me admission. The scholarship of the University of Ibadan. Now it's so difficult for us to get our students there. They write to us, Niyi, what's happening at your university? Why? Things that people should have known, they do not know. And you produce 250 first-class degrees and so on. There is devaluation all over. Some that they admit, they then admit conditionally. I'm talking from experience. Yeah, we admit that, but you will have to take remedial courses with undergraduates. Yes, this is what is happening. You look around us, not just Ibadan, you know what I'm talking about. Nigeria has about 274 universities now. The more universities we have, the more illiterate we become. I love Nigeria, but I'm ashamed of the way we are behaving. They are like slaves that do not want to remove their chains. Agency, ladies and gentlemen, let's take our world in our hand. Let's embrace ideas. Let's talk to politicians who steal our money. Instead of scrambling out of here to look for jobs, to bow before them, let us tell them it is them who put this country behind. We can't hold honest elections, and the people force themselves into power have ruined our economy. I can't feed well, and I'm a retired university teacher. You can imagine millions of other people who are dying of hunger or who are dying because they cannot purchase drugs for their ailments. These are human beings. And Nigeria is a beautiful country. I've been to the east, I've been to the north, I've been everywhere. I can never renounce this country. This is a beautiful country. But we have a lot, we are ugly at the moment. But it's possible for us to make ourselves beautiful again. We were going up and up. When UCH was one of the best teaching hospitals in Africa, I think in fact second to the one in apartheid South Africa there. Now, UCH, that goes how many days? 50, 120 days in darkness. That is a national treasure. What is wrong with us? No, we have to talk, really seriously with one another. Our beauty is there. It's just that you may be walking on water, you may be staying very close to a river, you could die of thirst unless you know how to lift that river as water and put it in your mouth. Science is what helped. There is technology in scooping that water and putting it in your hand. It may look really simple. It's technology all the same. Here, that river is there. We're waiting here. We're waiting for somebody to come from China or America or France to tell us, hey, come, this. Or we even say, put it in our mouth. We have a country to build. This country is not doing well. Our educational system is not doing well. Teachers, teach your students. They are not your slaves. Yeah. Postgraduate students are not apprentices. Respect, mutual respect. That is how education grows. Exchange ideas. That is how it grows. Be available when you have to teach them. I say it. Many of my colleagues, they are not just Ibadan, cannot survive 1 hour in American university. You can't go late. You go late first time, second time. Students will take you to court. Class action. You have paid for this. Why are you not here? Rather than just go away for weeks and then you come back. If that is how you were taught, you wouldn't be where you are today. I bless the managers, the Zebaris, the Thompsons, Ogudas, and so on. They gave me the best in this university, the best undergraduate I could have been anywhere else in the world. That's where I'm here today. Now, it's a long, long, long story. But this is how I'm going to end it. We have a great country in our hands, but let us prevent it from dying. Our graph is heading south. This is too much. I'd like to talk to the creators. Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you very much. Mr. Round of applause. Thank you very much, Sam. And he has spoken to a very to an extent that even the questions will cover. But before I proceed to asking other questions, I want to acknowledge, if this is not done, it is not honest. I want to acknowledge the role of IFRA in the conversation of environmental degradation. Please, can you give IFRA a round of applause? The research,
I will acknowledge Igi Ibadan, the collaborative work of Emily Guittard and other artists. I will also acknowledge the support from IFA to other artists, research that has been done on trees, particularly in Ibadan. Please, let's give IFA a round of applause again. I want to put this into context now. I think last year, the Ogunpa forest was attacked, and it's now down. Ogunpa is gone. On the 21st of November, the UI Heritage Park was also attacked. I call it attacked because it was done at night. And the question that comes to mind, like he mentioned, was the question of how we had to be told. It's like we had to be reminded about environmental degradation. But I don't want to believe that there's nothing that African epistemology is devoid of how to deal with the environment or manage it. I don't want to believe that. And before we started, the pre-screening featured your video, and you spoke a lot to the Osun Grove. So I want to ask, so that we don't belabor the conversation on environmental degradation, I want us to engage African epistemology on how to manage things, so that we don't make it look as if the only knowledge about dealing with the environment has to be foreign. So please, what would you say is a way forward? And are there specific epistemological classics or knowledge or practices in African societies that helps in addressing environmental degradation?
Thank you very much. Have I talked about protest? Professor asked. Professor, you didn't talk about protest. You staged a protest. You staged a protest. And I just want to say that last short clip that we saw, the sound of that chainsaw was so invasive, so insistent, so violent, so hard to take. And just see the carnage left. And I mean, I don't want to exaggerate, but I think, Professor, the last event that we came here at this university, you described it as a massacre, the one of the Heritage Park. And it did look like that, like the aftermath of some kind of mindless battle scene where something mindless and thoughtless had happened. It's not that the solutions will come from Europe alone, even though we can take good models from there. So, for instance, in the clip of mine and that was quite a surprise. I just walked in, I thought, where's my voice coming from? I was not expecting that at all. But but thank you. I think you did notice that in some ways it actually ties in with what we're talking about here. And in talking about African models, we can look at a site, a location such as the Osun Grove. And I want us here in Nigeria to have this kind of multifocal look on, especially on things, especially themes of the environment. So I first went to the Osun Grove in 2003. And I remember maybe after going in and coming out, maybe not before. And then I looked at this board, this signboard that says, "Ìwọ kò gbọdọ̀ pa ẹja níbí, ìwọ kò gbọdọ̀ pa ẹranko, ìwọ kò gbọdọ̀ gé igi, thou shalt not kill fish, animal, or cut trees." And it's so easy for the average Nigerian to say, oh, because of religion, because of especially Nigerians who oppose that system of belief. It's so easy to say, oh, it's because of the, dastardly practices, quote unquote, or because I would not agree with you actually, to say that it's because of quote unquote fetish or whatever. And there's this fixation on labeling things as this, as that, and just churning out the same cliches. When I looked at that signboard, I was, for the first time in my life, actually able to completely divorce that from
getting money from cassava, getting money from things that are very much still available. We were too busy finding diamonds, a stone that has very little value, without campaigning, without marketing, right? It's what do we market? Or the idea that as an African, in Africa, we're building concrete houses. In what climates? In what country? Why? But we are also then using so much energy to keep the houses cooler. Yes. Why are we building with cement? And it's like, oh, it's so backward to use mud and to create your house in a way that adapts to the place you live, to the climate that you live. And being someone who's been, I guess you say, the identity of being both Greek and Nigerian, is seeing how the thirst for accumulation of wealth that cannot be spent in this lifetime is destroying the lives that are necessary for the nations to go forward. We have forest fires. I was talking to my uncle, so in the estate I live, right? My uncle lives there. Everybody's burning their trash. And I'm like, why? You could start a fire at any point because it's dry season. Why is that the only way to do away with waste is through burning it? Was there no other way that we could have done this better? When they at some point put in biological waste as manure in our farms, what happened to every fruit at the supermarket being in plastic bags? Like, did the banana told you it needed to be in plastic? Or it will be so local if you would have something in banana leaves. Whereas you go back to Europe, they're selling you banana leaf as wrapping and calling it biodegradable. It's so bioecologically conscious. Or they're trying to sell you now how to build houses with mud as the most progressive thing to do, when you have allowed your alleged Western education to tell you that your grandparents' house that still stands today in the center of Ibadan is rural because it was built with mud. Yes. Yes. Or when we tell ourselves that we need to be urbanized to be better, we need to be urbanized to look cooler, to sound more European. Why do we need to sound more European? Why is that the level of intellect? Why is that the aspiration, I'll tell you? So we look at other African countries, right? I look at Cotonou lately. They're planting palm trees across the beach on the Atlantic Ocean. But then I look at Lagos Atlantic Ocean. They're building a fake city that should not be built on the Atlantic Ocean. Like, who needs Eco City? Why are you trying to fight with water? You're fighting with the Atlantic Ocean because you want to build a giant, useless, to my opinion, whatever fake city. Was that ever a good thing? But, oh, we will look good because we have a casino. Who said a casino was what Lagosians need? There's so many things about asking questions, asking the right question to ourselves. Like, I see every somewhere in Europe, you see fire in Greece. Who start the fires? People who want to build new beachfront properties. It's very simple. You want more holiday homes, you burn the forest. The forest is the heart of the country, but you don't care. 6 million people live in the center of Athens. Let's burn it to the ground because we need to build more villas. But who gets to live in the villas? Yeah. The capitalist American that can afford them, but not you and Matt and I, not the citizens of the country. But I think Professor was saying it earlier, and I wanted to say an example. I was doing my MPH in a university in the UK in Birmingham, and I had some fellow Nigerian international student who came to study public health alongside me. I'm coming from the migration world in Greece, refugee crisis, so I'm going into this master with more case studies, and I want the master to focus on policy. And I'm listening to my colleagues, because a master is not, you're not being forced to study, you pay to be here, being afraid of their professors to ask questions. Like, you're in a class for social determinants of health. It needs you to be a bit Socratic. You have to ask questions. You have to have ideas that are very different from that of your professor. That's why you're here. But they're like, oh, I don't want to ask. Can you ask him for him? And I'm like, are you okay? It's like, you need to challenge the schools. You need to challenge the knowledge production. You need to also remember the things that exist. They keep saying African epistemology is not recorded. That's not true. Listen to your family's Oriki. Your epistemology is right there in front of you. Or, oh, Africans never protected the environment. Karura Forest would like to disagree with you because Wangari Maathai put her life on the line to keep that there in Nairobi. But hey, Africans don't know how to protect the environment. We're still waiting for somebody to sell back to us our mud houses that were so rural. We had to go and build estates of concrete and then try to beg NEPA to give us light. But then when NEPA doesn't work, we buy inverters. It's a circle of, in which to say it's a circle of madness that you keep running around the same thing and expecting a different results.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I think the moderator bit off more than he could chew.
So I would go to the audience now. So I want to have 3 questions from the audience, but just 3 and numbers 1, 2, Professor Fashional, and 3.
No, number 1.
Okay. So before you respond on the question of recording African epistemology, I want to say that the Institute of African Studies has an archive of sound and vision, and it's a collection of one of the most robust past that Africa can be proud of. And there are so many of them. There are archives in Ghana. Please, can you give us a round of applause? Thank you for a round of applause.
While we are clapping, let the world know. I'm hearing about this for the first time. How can we be hiding this kind of treasure trove? Let ideas spread, advertise them.
How can we access?
So we will do a lot of work to ensure that this is done. We will do a lot of work. So number 1, your question.
Okay, good evening. Okay,
thank you.
My name is Bruno Atife Ogunbemi. I'm a master's graduate of the Department of Religious Studies. I really don't know who to. I want to direct questions.
You can.
Okay, probably to Professor Niyi Osundare. You made it known to us that you were a product of those that taught you, and then we find out that majority of our leaders now were a product of quality Western education, and they had examples to follow. So where could we have, or what could we say, at what point did they get it wrong, and at what point are they doing something wrong? For example, now I was in a conversation with someone, and the young, just with what she said, the old man told a young girl that you don't tell an elder he's doing the wrong thing, even when he's doing the wrong thing. Then I was just like, so where can we say the loss of what they learned from their mentors actually came into place, and where did they miss it? At what point did they miss it, and how can we bridge that gap? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Number two, so Prof.
Yes, I'm number 2. Well, just to say, Shola, that wasn't corruption anyway. It's an inversion of order. It's not everything that is corruption. Sorry, what I may be saying, I've watched the film, although I came late, and I've been able to gather a lot of what you can term, as I'm in a program, please. It's corruption. It's corruption again. I think there's no limit to the extent of knowledge we can gather from this discourse this evening. However, I think it's necessary for us, those of us who have acquired deep knowledges of the West and who are also nurtured and immersed in our indigenous African cultural matrices, to attempt to navigate between these two extremes in such a way that we can distill a faithful epistemology. For example, we are talking about environmental degradation. I'm sorry to say that just as Professor Niyi Osundare taught us, a member in his class, he would tell us, you just have to argue. You need to argue. And I'm sure that he still remembers that Nelson Fashino was an argumentative person.
Very much so.
Yes, sir. Now, environmental degradation. That word degradation itself is an invention that premeditates something bad. Why degradation? I would rather call it as environmental regradation. What's so really great other than degrading? Because we are used to negative post-colonial concepts. And that is the reason why we erect our own, interpretation of African morals, cultures, morality, and all that, customs, literature, and all that, based on these negative concepts. Going to the specifics, the environment cannot remain the same for 1,000 years. It has to be tamed. Even in the West, the environments are kept regraded, upgraded, to the extent that the environment must conform to the needs of humanity in a contemporary society. And so, it's the same way. How many people will leave the air on their head 10 years without going to the barber? And that is environmental degradation, and it's positive to give you a real shape, a good shape. Now, talking about the University of Ibadan, I want to be very straightforward and direct. Let me say this: the felling of trees, well, it's a root shock in inverted commas. We know that, but shock in the sense that human beings will always exhibit natural reaction against change, and that is it. They were about to cut the tree behind my bus cutter. The only thing I said is this can prevent, the wind from, at least blowing off the roof or whatever. And I went there to challenge them. But then the authorities, under the instrument of the person involved, said they just had to do it because some trees had become so weak for age, and that they pose danger to humanity in that environment. That is number one. Number two, in 2019, sorry.
What's your question?
I'm not asking a question. I'm going to ask a question, but in my comment, you will get my question. My this thing is this, because I am here as what do we call it now? A spectator, participant. And so I won't be anywhere where I will not offer my opinion. So be patient with me, please. I was patient to watch the film since about 3 something. So now what I want to say is this. Specifically the Heritage Park in reference had been, and it cannot remain like that for life. A building, please, that's my opinion. A gigantic 7-story, Senate building is going to be erected on that ground, and it is positioned in a way that will give a kind of environmental beauty to the landscape of UI as you are approaching the campus from the gate. Please, decorum place. I don't care what anybody says. I'm entitled to my opinion. So as far as I'm concerned, we have discussed this severally on campus. People argue and all that, but I have my position. As far as I am concerned, that cannot be a degradation. When you let a building, then after that, you look for a location where trees can be planted. So as far as I'm concerned, it is environmental degradation. So redefinition of concepts and attempting to be elastic in our viewpoint on issues. But I want to say finally that, you see, there's no way there will be no argument. Those of you who are poets, I've written poets, but I'm not a poet.
You are one of them.
So I'm not canonized. So what is there is that there's a poetic eye of criticism. There's a poetic instinct that will negate some of these things. And that negation itself is part of it. We need it. So thank you very much for your opinions.
Okay, thank you very much. Number 3. Please, number 3. I will. Okay, thank you very much. Short and precise, sir.
Thank you. My name is Inka Fabowale. I just have an apology to make. And that is to say that I hope I've not denied some other person here who may have a question to ask and perhaps deepen this intellectual discussion. I'm a man of little knowledge, so I may not be so interested in the discussion that we've been having, but I must admit I've gained a lot. I'm here to watch this film, and I want to thank IFRA and the organizers, Dr. Chenny too, Chenny Cook, I guess, and our man of honor, Professor Osundare, because watching this film, it's kind of took me down memory lane because of its anthropological value.
Sir,
you just watch it and you see a lot of things that even helps you in understanding the stylings of the poets. I was here at the IAS Institute where Professor Bassi and Da taught me anthropology, and I thought I saw a lot of that in this clip. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. There will be one more intervention, but I want to say this. It is important that we don't go backwards in the arguments that we want to have. And going backward means that we have to respect that we would have different opinions. We will have different opinions. That is it. So we will not, you have to say, listen, and I know that the conversations will continue as we proceed, because everyone would have an argument. But I want, no more questions. I want, I've forgotten her name. Her name. Okay. So there will be one more intervention. Please. In
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, your intervention.
Okay. I think I'd better stand up. Sorry, I hope you don't mind if I hold on to it. I wanted to respond to what you just said about trees, sir. I'm sorry, my name is Rosalie-Ann Modo-Efe, so I'm the co-founder of Save Our Green Spaces Group, and I'm also the representative of Save Ogunpa Forest Reserve and various other groups. Cutting down a tree does not amount to change that we need to embrace. Those are two very, very different things. You cannot live without a tree. What they did at Heritage Park was a massacre. Okay? When the news of Heritage Park going to be destroyed first came up, I live quite far away. I came into UI because the word had already come to our group. We started to write articles on it. And I said, let me go and see this park. Let me go and sit there and see what it's all about. So I know when I start writing, I know what I'm saying. And I remember that day, I spent the whole afternoon there, and I remember the peace. And I can remember that sense of healing. And I thought to myself, my good, I was brought up in UI. I was in UI in 1973. I've lived here for over 50 years. You know, so I've known about the trees, and I've known about the students and the professors and everyone. If you cut down a tree, you're removing the oxygen, you're removing soil stability, you're removing the water table, you're removing the capacity to remove pollutants from the air. Cutting down a tree is not change. It can never be that. To replace a tree with a concrete building, iron and concrete, I mean, I can't even take it, and I've been listening to everybody all evening, trying to see what causes this thing. What is everybody thinking when they think, oh, we must cut down the trees, and if we build a new Senate building, then we've made it. We have arrived. We are like Oibo. That thing honestly really has to change. The Americans, the Europeans, whoever, they have made their mistakes. Now they're frantic trying to change them. Climate change is coming, global warming is coming, Spain is flooding, Brazil is flooding, the whole place is in chaos. They know what they've done. But the Africans are still following them behind. They're following them behind at the Victorian age. They are not even connected enough to understand what is going on now. They don't understand that Ogunpa Forest Reserve, which was they removed over 5,000 trees in that place. It's protecting a wetlands. There's one lake, one river, one spring, one tributary. Ogunpa floodplain, Ogunpa, not just ordinary river, floodplain. They went and removed the whole 5,000. We talked, we begged, we sent letters, the Federal Ministry of Environment sent letters. Nobody in this Oyo State government listened to one word of that. This is not about change. It's not even, I mean, it broke many people's hearts. This is an environmental catastrophe waiting to happen. And I really mean that. And I didn't come here, I normally sleep in the afternoons because I work at night. But when I was told, I said, I'm going to have at least maybe 40 people who are going to hear this. Maybe 20 of them will understand. Maybe 5 of them will take it in. That's enough from you. Maybe only 2 will act on it. You cannot do some things if the governments don't hear us. The tragedy about the Ogunpa Forest Reserve, you brought it up, is that whether they listen or they don't listen, what is going to happen is going to happen. You cannot get away with doing that, right? And of course, most of you have brought up the issue also of elders.
Yeah.
Speaking to elders, right?
Yes. But please, you have to.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I said it. I could go on and on, obviously, for hours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So we will be having the responses from the questions, and that will be the closure. But before that, the director of the institute has an announcement.
I need to drop the old man. I'm sorry.
And come back to another old man. So I got to quickly fix this.
Please, in continuation of what we're doing now, the Institute of African Studies will be starting the Black History Month in a fortnight from now. And these issues will continue. Professor Osundare will return. He's going to have a slot with us, and we also have an event slated for a day of the Thursday film series. Just to also add, finally, that you decide whether 50-year-old plus men and women, so-called professors, will determine your own future. You decide. You decide. How long am I to live and how long you are to live? If you see that they do not have the right to those kinds of decisions on your behalf. I said it when I was 18, I'm saying it now. Take your own stance and move with it. Nobody will have privilege and give it to you. Fight for it.
Still in the spirit of protest. So I want to acknowledge the presence of the oldest postgraduate student in the Institute of African Studies, Professor Molara Wood. He's a retired professor and he's still having his PhD in cultural and media studies. Please, I'll give him a round of applause. So, responses now. Okay.
You go first.
Okay, I want to go first because there's something that has been said that I want to repeat myself. Maybe that would help. When we focus on critiquing the language used to talk about a very urgent and pertinent problem, we digress. We police the language, then we digress from the main problem. The main problem is we are destroying our environment. We are cutting down the trees that allow us to be alive.
Decorum, please.
I have full decorum. So I wanted to say there is something fascinating about the human arrogance to think that nature is just a passive part of our existence, that we can tame nature, that we have the power to decide what we do with our trees and our waters and our land. It's very interesting to me because every time we say that, we get a flashback because nature will always remind you that she's the mother, that she's the powerful one, that we are the one who cannot survive a planet that is not feasible for us to breathe. The planet will be fine. People say, oh, the planet is dying. No. The planet will be absolutely fine. It's humans that will not be able to survive the degradation and destructions we have given to the planet because we want to build concrete buildings that look ugly. Ugly concrete buildings. Like if you're going to cut down 500 trees, please do it for a reason that I can say this trees that were planted by my ancestors, by your ancestors, by students that passes here, people have stories with this heritage part. It's not old, yes, but people had memories. People had relationship with those trees. If you're going to cut down something, at least give me a reason that makes logical sense to the presence of the thing you're about to build on it. You're building a concrete building for a Senate house. Find another piece of land. Find another piece of land. And there is a Yoruba proverb that says that Omoton Taile, Omotako, Oloma Taile Takota, Oloma Lota, Emma Binu Yoruba Yoruba. Yeah, so what I'm saying is if we as a generation are okay with 15-year-old men telling us what is progress and we do nothing about it because they want to build a concrete house, then it's really us who have to question how we deal with them because they were very much telling us that they had mentors, they had teachers, they were pertinent, they were there, you were talking about zip resident students, you were talking about the student taking over the university. What are the students doing to take over the university? Because the university is supposed to be the laboratory of the country. So if your university, critical thinkers, the people I believe will continue to show off the greatness of University of Ibadan, are not squatting the houses. I said squatting the houses of those who burn down those trees or cut them down, then maybe we need to do something else. Because what I say is we cannot expect for power to be given to you,
There is an abuse of power to decide one night to cut down trees without having no permission, no conversation with anybody, because you have the power, you are the big man. And there's something we don't talk about in Nigerian history where we get this audacity of I have impunity to make any choice, is because the part of our history when big men made decisions that killed the intellectuals of our country for speaking the truth, nothing ever happened. We erased it, we take it away from the history book, we pretend that now that they are politicians and democratic, they are okay. We forgot what they did, or we pretend to forget what they do. We give them a new identity and a new branding, and we embrace them as a new democratic president when they have killed the souls of this country. So when we are ready to be honest with ourselves, that the people that are pretending to be our leaders, and even if they're our fathers, we will tell them that the things you're doing is damaging my future and the future I expect to leave to my children and my children's children. If you're not planting trees, don't be cutting them. And if you decide that you cutting trees is you telling nature, I have news for you. Nature will take you with a merciless fight. That's all I have to say.
Does anyone remember the campaign many years ago about nature, about the earth, starring Nicole Kidman, the Hollywood actress? And there she's like the voice of Mother Nature. And she says, I am nature. I will go on. Can you? Professor Fashional, with respect, sir, you have a supporting role in the film Aderemi Road, which is about Soyinka, the house that Soyinka lived on the campus of this university, the house concerning which you are the current occupant. And in that film, you talk about that land behind the house, where, I mean, the film is a lament for what has been done to the original Akkadian paradise that Soyinka envisioned when he lived and loved that house. And you yourself speak very much in line with the ethos of that film, with the tone of that film. I will put it to you that your submission today is a contrary position to your starring role in that film, number one. And also, Soyinka says in that film, he talks about leaving the University of Lagos to come to the University of Ibadan. And he said something which Ibadan will always have as a kudos point over UNILAG. He said he left UNILAG because it was not sufficiently wooded. He had to come to Ibadan. That sufficiently wooded Ibadan is now having trees felled in droves without consultation. Please, sir, in other societies, I mean, what we're talking about, what the lady was talking about, the Ogunpa forest, 5,000 trees, that's like somebody going to Epping Forest in the UK and destroying everything because they want to put up some carbon coals. That's like somebody going to Hyde Park and destroying that. I'm a Londoner because I lived in London for over 2 decades. And we're very proud of the fact that London is by definition a forest. London is not a city. London is a forest. There are more than 8 million trees. And I always say to Nigerians, you dapper to go to societies that you believe they're beautiful. You start putting it on Instagram. Look where I am. I'm in Paris. I'm in Rome. I'm in this. I'm in that. You go to Europe and America for conditions, for environmental conditions that you do not care to preserve and to maintain and nurture in your own country. You know, you completely capitulate on your own society. You say it's ugly, you make it ugly. See, go to bush, you see any, what do they call it? What do they call this thing? It has escaped me. The canal. In any European city, it's so beautiful. You go there, you think you are seeing fairies. But the canals in our country, they're cesspit. So I want us to think about how everything we do connects with something else. And it's a university. A university is supposed to be a sanctuary. It's supposed to be this place where before they
Finally, we have the parting words and response from Professor Niyi Osundare. So, your response, sir.
I thought I had said enough. Yeah, this is one of the cougars we live with. There is nothing wrong about being young. There is nothing wrong about being old. It is when you use one position to disadvantage the other that problem arises. I say this all the time. Nobody dobales in my home. I didn't raise my children to dobale. I was given a chieftaincy title. I couldn't take it because I don't believe in monarchy. It's a personal choice. It doesn't make me a better person or whatever. And I am extremely proud of Yoruba culture, of African culture. But I tell you, the real reasonable person, the real educated person, the real enlightened humanist loves their culture selectively. Every culture mix, M-E-A-K-S. Yeah, there's no perfect culture. Yoruba is one of the best I have encountered in the world, but it has its own extreme weaknesses too. The Yoruba group did something in 2020, Yoruba Nation, Yoruba. I was invited as one of the participants. What I can say is, we Yoruba have to learn to do more celebration than celebration. The old one thing is killing our culture. I'm not a party person, but one or two I have seen in recent times amazed me. In a country where I'm finding it difficult to buy 3 plantains, at my age, and so on, and I see people stop, and I know the number of letters I'm getting from desperate relatives. You spend 10 million naira on one night party, and you say, yeah, the Yoruba people know how to enjoy that. No, that's how to destroy life. So kidnappers know what they are doing. They are equal opportunity criminals. You know, the way we celebrate Obambe, the Obambe thing began when Nigeria began to fall apart. Somebody was asking me, when did it begin? I knew this country. I was born in 1947. I was 13 years old as a colonial subject. My best years so far have been the ones between 1960 and 1966. Those were my secondary school years. The regions were doing well. That was when Awolowo's wonderful statesmanship began to yield results. And then the Civil War came. Oh, no, the coup of January 15, 1966 came. And the truncation of Nigeria began. That led to one thing, another led to one thing, and then they unified the country by force, and Nigeria lost its federalism. This is what we are battling against now. If we had followed along that line, we would have been asking for restructuring and whatever. So where did we get it wrong? In the 60s. And the man who took over, young man, 32-year-old Mr. Gowon, was it in Trinidad? He said it. I tell you that the problem with my country is not money, but how to spend it. I was in Korea last year. For the translation of my works. The guy who came to pick me up at the airport, he and I were talking. We had driven about 1.5 miles. To my left, green. To my right, green. I said, this is a green country. He laughed. When we got to the hotel at last, I said, oh my God, we did 2.5 miles of green. So you were, I said, yes. I said, it is controlled by government. Yeah. We have politicians in Nigeria, we have rulers, we don't have leaders. There is a lot of difference between them. No, you can't do it here because of your personal interest. For the sake of general interest, this is what must happen. This is it. Those who rule us, from the university to Abuja or whatever, don't think about others. And that is called fascism. America is enjoying its own now. 1 or 2 weeks of Mr. Trump, you know what's been happening? Third world. This is what it is called. So, ageism. Yeah, that is natural that you should be older than somebody and somebody else could be younger than you are. They don't exploit it. You can't talk to me like that. No. Now, it's the same thing that happens in the classroom. You are in the class and you are talking, and there are students before you made a point, and the students said, but I read a book yesterday that said, shut up. I'm the one in charge of this classroom. I'm older than, the next thing is, I'm older than you. Socrates would have slapped you. Yeah, so much is wrong with us. This is part of it, you know. So age, and so what? When interface all of us, my first week at the University of Leeds, 1973 September, when I got there, all my teachers, famous linguists and literary people, sir, and I was like, Mr. John Spencer had to call me and say, we don't say sir here. We don't say, you know, call me John. It took me a long time before I could call him John, but I started calling him John, all the same. That doesn't mean that European culture is inferior to ours. No, it's the management of it. As you have secularism, you have despotism, you also have ageism. Don't cheat people simply because you are older than them. The Yoruba know how to take care of this. Ọmọdégbọ́n, àgbàgbọ́n, la fi dálẹ̀. Now, thank you very much, Rosen. Yes, you said it all, and I like the passion with which you said it. I know we've been communicating. We appreciate the work you are doing. It is important, and we continue. My brother and friend, Professor Fashino, you know, I'm sure when you were talking, you were more or less playing the devil's advocate. Many of us are going to disagree with you. This is not a situation in which colonialism or anti-colonialism plays. No. Whether you call it degradation, or you call it devastation, or you call it spoliation, or whatever, Now you remember in that documentary, we were there, that was our first 1 hour in Sierra Leone. They decided to take us on a drive on Freetown Street. I looked up and I saw those buildings on top of it, and I asked, how do these people get here? And then what happens if there is a landslide, a mudslide? The director and producer of the film called me about a year later. He was still working, editing the film, when he said, Niyi, do you know what happened? He said, my God, there is a lot of devastation in Sierra Leone. You know that place where he said it happened? Downpour, heavy downpour, and all those buildings were falling on one another and falling on one another. There are times things happen and you ask, why don't people think? I ask in our universities. A university has a universe in it when it makes people think. We act first and think later. We are a country of foolish people. Foolish people don't create. It is our foolishness and stupidity that our politicians exploit. They take us for granted. Simple. I mean, how does that happen? It begins a university that cannot teach students how to ask questions. Critical thinking is what it is called in America. It's important. It's not enough for you to know all the books of Shakespeare or Soyinka or whatever. No! Ask questions. W-H-Y. That is the most important question in logic philosophy. W-H-Y. We don't ask in Nigeria. And our politicians know. You know, so age is yeah, it has to be happening to be there. We respect people, but that you are older than somebody doesn't mean that you are more intelligent as a person, or that you are old doesn't mean that you will be right in all the things you've done in the world. And one thing I have known is most of the people who preach ageism have a complex. There is an emptiness you are trying to cover by saying that, don't you know I'm older than you? We suffered this when we were in secondary school. Some of our seniors were very wicked, but they were also the poorest. You know, that's it. So, Professor Fashino, no. All things in the world grow, mature, fruit, age, and die. I take it. That's the line. You want to say nature is one of them? The reason nature doesn't do that is that nature has its own way of regenerating itself. And the reason we are having problems is that we human beings are standing in the way of nature. We were at the botanical garden today, and I keep thanking that place. That was where I started forest circles. In fact, I wrote the whole thing. In the eye of the earth. And they were telling me, I think it was Emily who told me, some of the trees fell so that I might not break my heart when I saw them. And I said, yeah, it is natural for trees to fall, but we replant them. Faculty of Arts, University of Arts, I have an essay I haven't published. I want to deliver it as a lecture someday. The title is The Tree and I. It's based on my experience in 1996 with Professor Zebaye and my uncle, who is dead now, bless him, Dr. Akinola. The huge tree, I don't know if you remember my brother, Fashino, at the back of the Faculty of Arts. Huge loco, really huge, that I used to look up and really enjoy seeing the leaves. I came down from my office, I was head of the department then. Yeah, that's where you are now, that office. I was going to Newswatch with my article in my hand, no email then. And the driver was with, and I thought, I froze. So my books dropped on the ground, the driver picked them up, and I went to the guy, 4 of them. What are you doing? He looked at me. The one who was behind the tree, who didn't know who was talking, said, Apanila Ngemi, are we cutting your arm? Yes, are we cutting your arm? And I told him, if it were my arm you were cutting, it would have been better. You are cutting the arm of the universe. Why did you do this? Unfortunately, by that time they had gone past half. They had cut half of the bottom part of that tree. And I said, why did you do this? They said the people in the history department complained. What is it? They said the leaves were disturbing them. Yeah, that's how they brought down that tree. Now they have circled the place and they put arts there. In a university! Who gave us our degrees? Where did we get it from? Did we forge certificates? Yes. Did we cheat in the exams? How can we can't think? A little boy, a little girl will say, no, it's all. From there, I ran to the office of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Niyi. I said, Prof, this is what I have seen. He looked at me and said, we had a meeting. And we said we were going to cut down just a few trees on campus. And I said, Prof, sit, I want you to go today. Stand between Kuti Hall and the Art Theatre. And then look to your right, or look forward, right forward. If you can see the registrar's house from where you are standing, or if you can see the Department of Chemistry from where you are standing, if you can see the Faculty of the Social Sciences from where you are standing, then you have killed this university. What prevents us from seeing those things? Trees on Niger Road. Oyibo people planted them. How? I mean, boulevard, trees. He said, I said, no, please. From there, Department of Forestry. One of my colleagues was there, and I said, come, what is this problem? At that time, there were 3 of us. So if I'm lying, there will be two other people to tell you so. Professor Zebaye was with me. Professor Akinola was with me. And he said, yes, it is true, we held a meeting. And I said, well, they said that they should. I said, the buck stops at your desk. You failed us. Where did you get your degree? What is the name? I was in Senate when you wanted to change the name of your whatever. So, Department of so and Forest Management. Have you ever seen a forest without trees? Professor of Forestry. Our problems are many. One of the problems is what you have raised. No. This is not how to live. This is not how to develop a country. What is the outside world supposed to think of us when they see the murder we've created here? Oh, because... Hello? Yeah. Now, can you see my voice? Yeah. So we are going to tell them, we want, the most beautiful Senate building in the world, and that is why we are killing those trees. Now, I got so many letters after my reaction. One of them actually said he was a member of Senate when those trees were planted. It was Dr. Onosade. So, gentlemen, Onosade is a proud alumnus of class 6 when this university had the university. Yes, proud man. He was the one who led the people after one of their meetings to that place to do the ritual of planting those trees. He was chairman of council, so the trees didn't just get there. They've been there for a long time. And in fact, I think he said they should name some of the trees after some of the members. That is how those trees got there, until Professor Popola of forestry and others started planting. It was planned. Now, you woke up one day, yeah, we want a Senate bill here, and you cut those. Did you think about the rest of us? No, I feel insulted.
3 o'clock in the morning, sir. They mentioned that one.
Huh?
I said they cut them at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Whatever time of night or day.
The way Mashallah did also did.
Yeah. What about the rest of us? Where is democracy? No. So now I have to before I hand over. So my brother Nelson, I need not tell you. You know me enough. I love this country. I love this university just as I love this country. But I don't love the kind of violent stupidity that I see there. No. It is not defensible anywhere in the world. There are plots all over the place. You know, all the advantages that trees provide us. You know, this thing has been taken away now. Degrading and regrading. Can you regrade if you don't degrade? If you want us to play the etymological game.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. And because of our time, for Professor Niyi Osundare, for Ms Molara Wood, and for Ms Aderemi, please, can we stand up? Can we stand up? And give them a round of applause. Please, sit. So we've come, please, you can have your seats. So that it's getting dark, so we'll go outside now for group photographs. So, and as we go, please, we can continue to.
It's funny outside. Let him stay there. We can do photographs.
Okay, please, that's good.
Okay. Just don't go, please.
Okay. Okay.
Just come.
So please. So well, if you want to continue the conversation online, on our Twitter page, our Facebook, and Instagram.
Michael, get people organized first. And you can talk, photograph.
Please, can we stand? Can we stand behind them?
Please. No, please, yes. Please, the pictures first. Please, director, please.
So, everybody, please. Can you come forward, please? Can you come forward?
Michael, you are not in the picture. What's wrong with you?
light bright enough? You have flashes.
These are professionals though.
Oh, there might be no. Yeah.
Photographer, you are too tall.
So can we go outside now? Let's go outside. It will be a broad. So please, if you want to continue the conversation on our Twitter pages, Thursday Film Series, you can hashtag green or green.